Welcome to Celeb Club. All your favorite stars are here. Every person we admire from far away carries a story that we do not fully see. The magazines show us the dresses, the photos, show us the smiles, and the interviews show us the carefully chosen words. But behind all that, there is always a human being with fears, with struggles, and with moments of doubt. Blake Lively became a symbol of beauty and grace. She was celebrated as the golden girl of Hollywood, the perfect actress, the perfect wife, the perfect mother to millions. She seemed untouchable, but the truth is no one is untouched by hardship. From the outside, Blake lived a dream millions wished they could trade places with her. She had fame, success, and love. Yet what no one expected was how heavy that dream could feel behind the camera. She faced nights of uncertainty. She battled the pressure of always being judged. She carried the responsibility of raising her children. While the world constantly demanded her attention, she knew what it felt like to smile in front of flashing lights while hiding emotions that could not be shared. She knew what it was like to be adored, but also misunderstood. This is not a story of perfection. This is not the glossy Hollywood tale that fans believe. This is a story of a woman who had to fight to protect her family, her voice, and her peace of mind. It is a story about resilience, about learning that true strength is not in how many headlines you make, but in how you hold yourself when the world is watching and waiting for you to fall. Blake Lively's journey was never simple. It was filled with moments that shaped her into the woman she is today. Some moments were beautiful, others were painful, and many were completely unexpected. This is a Blake Lively story no one expected before the world knew her name. Blake Lively was just a little girl with wide eyes and a heart full of questions. She was born in Los Angeles in 1987 to a family already touched by Hollywood. Yet to Blake, home did not feel like a stage. It felt like love and laughter. It felt like being the youngest in a crowded house. It felt like listening to the voices of her brothers and sisters as they chased roles and auditions, while she quietly wondered if she was meant for the same path. She wanted ordinary things. She wanted school dances and choir rehearsals and cheerleading practice. She wanted to sit with friends at lunch and dream about college far from the cameras and the pressure. She once imagined herself walking the halls of Stanford. She thought her future would be books and study and a life of her own choosing. But even when she tried to step away from the world of acting, life had a way of pulling her closer. Her father cast her in a small film when she was only 11. It was not about fame, it was about family. It was about a father and daughter sharing a moment together. Yet in that moment, something stirred inside her. It was small, like a spark, barely visible, yet powerful enough to stay lit in her heart. Blake often felt the shadow of her siblings. She loved them deeply, yet she sometimes wondered if she would ever shine in her own light. She asked herself quietly, am I enough? Do I belong here? Will I always just be the youngest child? Or will I one day have a voice of my own? Her childhood was not about perfection. It was about searching, was about being caught between two worlds. One was the ordinary life she longed for, the other was the life that seemed to be reaching for her. No matter how far she tried to run, she could not know then that her face would one day appear on billboards. She could not know that millions of people would one day look to her as a symbol of beauty and strength. She could not know that her story would be filled with twists, turns, triumphs, and storms. She was only a child holding on to dreams that felt safe and simple, unaware that the world was preparing to write a story far greater and far heavier than anything she expected. This was a girl before the spotlight. This was Blake before the world. This was the beginning of the Blake Lively story no one expected. Every person has a moment that changes everything for Blake Lively. That moment came in 2007 when she became Serena van der Woodsen in Gossip Girl. From the very first episode, the world seemed to stop and stare. The show was fresh, bold, and addictive, and Blake was at the center of it. All young women wanted to dress like her. Young men admired her presence. Fashion magazines studied her every move. She became the face of an entire cultural wave almost overnight. But behind the glow of Serena, there was Blake, a young woman who only months before was still dreaming of a simple life of classes and laughter and family dinners. Suddenly, she was standing on billboards. She was on the cover of magazines. She was a new symbol of glamour in New York City. And deep down, she asked herself quietly, am I ready for this fame? Looks beautiful from the outside, but it rarely feels beautiful on the inside. The cameras followed her day and night. Strangers knew her name and believed they knew her heart. Reporters created stories about her relationships. Even when she had no words to defend herself, she had to smile through interviews. When all she wanted was a moment of peace, she had to look flawless on red carpets. Even when she felt tired or insecure, the hardest part was that the world began to blur the line between Blake and Serena. Fans adored Serena's style, Serena's mystery, Serena's charm. But Blake was not Serena. Blake was a human being, with doubts, with fears, with quiet nights where she wondered if she deserved the attention at all. Every photo shoot, every premiere, every scene filmed for Gossip Girl felt like both a blessing and a burden. She loved her craft. She loved telling stories. She loved connecting with people through her work. But the weight of perfection pressed on her shoulders every single day. The idea that one wrong word or one wrong step could become a scandal made her feel like she was living under glass, always seen, never free. Yet even in the heaviness, Blake showed remarkable strength. She carried herself with grace. She worked tirelessly. She gave fans a character they would never forget, and slowly she began to understand that maybe she was stronger than she realized. Maybe she could survive in a world that demanded so much from her. This chapter was dazzling and painful. It was glittering lights and sleepless nights. It was praise and pressure woven together so tightly she could hardly separate them. It was the moment when the world discovered Blake Lively, but also the moment when Blake discovered how lonely fame could truly feel. And still she endured, because even in the shadows of doubt, Blake Lively was already beginning to write a story far greater than anyone expected. When the lights of Gossip Girl shined brightest, Blake Lively stood in the center of a storm of fame to millions. She was Serena van der Woodsen, the golden girl, the dream, the image of perfection. But deep inside, Blake wanted something more. She wanted to be seen not as a character, but as a woman, and as an artist. She wanted her own voice, not just the echo of Serena. Her first steps into film were filled with both hope and fear and the sisterhood of the traveling pants. She revealed tenderness and warmth. She showed young women everywhere that she could carry a story that was real and heartfelt in the town. She walked into darker territory and proved that she was more than beauty. She could play broken. She could play raw. She could play human. In the age of Adeline, she carried the weight of timeless sorrow on her shoulders. She was no longer just Serena. She was a storyteller, but the path was never smooth. Hollywood is a dream and a battlefield at the same time. Every audition brought anxiety. Every review carried the power to wound. Some praised her, others dismissed her, some whispered she would never escape Gossip Girl. Some said she was only a face meant to be admired, not an actress meant to be respected. And though Blake smiled for the world, those whispers sometimes cut deep, because even the strongest stars carry quiet doubts and stillness of night. She fought back, not with anger, but with persistence. She chose to keep working. She chose to show her worth through her art. She carried herself with grace. Even when critics tried to reduce her to nothing more than a symbol, she learned that in Hollywood, you cannot control what people say, but you can control how you rise. Still, the pressure was heavy. She could not simply live. She had to shine at all times. Her fashion choices were judged, her relationships became headlines, her private moments were invaded. And though she carried it all with elegance, there were nights when she longed for silence, nights when she wished the world could see Blake the person, not Blake the image. Yet through the struggle, there was also triumph. With every role, she chipped away at the doubt. With every film, she carved out her identity. With every step, she grew stronger. She was not only surviving Hollywood, she was proving to herself that she belonged. She was learning that real power is not in being perfect. Real power is in being resilient. This chapter was not just about films. It was about transformation. It was about a young woman breaking free from the shadow of a role that made her famous and discovering that her true light came from within. It was painful and it was beautiful, and it was only the beginning of the woman Blake Lively was becoming. Every great story has a love chapter. For Blake Lively, that chapter began when she met Ryan Reynolds. At first, it was not fireworks and headlines. It was friendship. It was laughter shared quietly on a film set. It was two people finding comfort in each other's company before the world even noticed something was happening. But when love finally bloomed, it bloomed fast and true, and soon the world saw them together. Blake and Ryan became what many called the perfect Hollywood couple. They walked red carpets hand in hand. They teased each other in interviews and on social media. Their smiles seemed effortless. Their love seemed untouchable. Fans adored them. Paparazzi chased them. Headlines celebrated them. Yet behind the fairy tale was a reality only they understood. Because love is not easy when millions of eyes are watching. Every gesture, every word, every silence became a story. Strangers debated their marriage. Strangers judged their choices. Strangers tried to define their happiness. For Blake, this was not just romance. It was also a test. Could love survive under the weight of fame? Could family exist when the world refused to give privacy? Blake carried motherhood with grace, but also with fear. The birth of her first child was a miracle, yet it also came with the realization that her children were born into a spotlight. They never asked for. She wanted them to have childhoods filled with innocence and freedom, but the cameras never stopped following. The world expected her to share every detail, yet her heart told her to protect what mattered most. She became more than an actress. She became a guardian, a shield for her family. She learned to draw boundaries. She learned to fight for privacy. She learned that true love is not just holding hands on red carpets, but holding each other through sleepless nights, through moments of exhaustion, through the storm of fame that never truly quiets. Ryan became not only her partner, but her anchor. Together, they found ways to laugh in the chaos. They used humor as armor. They turned small moments into memories that no headline could take away. But even in laughter, Blake knew the truth. Love in Hollywood is fragile. Many couples break under pressure. Many lose themselves in the noise. She refused to let that happen. She fought for her marriage. She fought for her family. She fought for her peace. This chapter of her life was painted in both gold and shadow, the gold of love, the gold of children, the gold of joy that no camera could capture, and the shadow of judgment, the shadow of invasion, the shadow of knowing that perfection was a story others told, but not the reality she lived. And yet through it all, Blake found her deepest strength. She was not just a golden girl on screen. She was a wife. She was a mother. She was a woman building a sanctuary of love in a world that constantly tried to take away. This was not the fairy tale people thought. They knew this was something stronger, something braver, something real. This was Blake Lively's love story, the chapter no one expected, but the chapter that revealed who she truly was. Fame looks like a dream, but for Blake Lively it often felt like a storm. She walked red carpets while flashes of cameras blinded her eyes. She smiled while strangers shouted her name. Yet when the lights went dark, she sometimes felt an emptiness that no applause could fill. The world praised her beauty and her style, but at the same time it judged her without mercy. One day she was perfect, the next day she was criticized for being too polished, too private, too visible, or not visible enough. It did not matter what she did, the judgment never ended. And for Blake, this was not just noise on the outside, it was weight pressing on the inside. There were nights when she stood in front of the mirror and asked quietly, who am I? Am I Blake, the girl who once dreamed of Stanford? Or am I only the image that the world created for me? She felt torn between the woman she knew inside and the version that headlines demanded. Her reflection often carried both pride and pain, a smile that looked confident, but eyes that carried exhaustion. The harshest part of fame was how it tried to take away her humanity to the world. She was not allowed to be tired. She was not allowed to be sad. She was not allowed to make mistakes. She was supposed to shine endlessly, but no human can shine all the time. And when she faltered even slightly, critics were waiting, ready to call her less than perfect. What hurt most was knowing that her children would grow up under those same eyes. She wanted to give them innocence and freedom, but cameras followed even when she begged for privacy. She wanted to shield them from cruelty, but she knew the world could be unkind. She carried guilt for bringing them into the spotlight. Even though love was at the center of every choice she made, still in her pain, she found strength. Each rumor became a reason to stand taller. Each cruel headline became a reminder that she was more than words on a page. She learned that real power was not in being adored. Real power was in surviving the moments when the world turned against you. She began to fight silently, choosing roles, carefully choosing her peace over pressure, choosing her family over the endless chase for approval. Fame had taken much from her. It had taken her freedom, her privacy, her right to be imperfect. But it also revealed something precious. It had revealed the resilience inside her. The resilience of a woman who refused to be broken, a woman who refused to let the world write her story, a woman who decided that even if perfection was demanded, she would live in truth. Instead, the price of fame was heavy, but Blake Lively carried it with a courage that only those who have faced storms can ever understand. There comes a moment in every journey when silence becomes heavier than words. For Blake Lively, that silence had lasted for years. She had smiled while the world defined her. She had nodded politely while others wrote her story. She had carried the weight of lies and expectations without ever saying how much it hurt. But inside, she longed for freedom. She longed for the courage to look at the world and say, this is me, not your headlines, not your rumors, not the perfect image you demand, but me. The day she found her voice, it did not come with fireworks. It came quietly, like a soft whisper that grew stronger each time she allowed herself to speak. She began to admit the struggles of motherhood, the exhaustion of living under constant judgment, the fear of raising daughters in a world that sometimes demanded perfection from women, but gave them so little grace. She spoke not to gain sympathy, but to tell the truth, and her truth began to heal. Her social media became more than a platform, became her safe place, her stage, her shield, where others once twisted her story. She now wrote it with her own hands. She posted with humor. She laughed openly at herself. She shared moments of love with her husband and glimpses of her children with tenderness, but always on her terms. For the first time, she was not just reacting to the world, she was leading it. And the world noticed. The fans who once adored only her beauty began to admire her honesty. The critics who once searched for flaws began to see her strength. She was no longer the golden girl built by Hollywood. She was a woman carved by resilience. She was someone real. Finding her voice was not easy. Every time she spoke, there was fear. Would they mock her? Would they twist her words again? Would they use her honesty against her? But she spoke anyway, and with every word she grew lighter, she grew freer. She looked in the mirror, and for the first time in years, she saw not doubt, not exhaustion, but pride. Her voice became her power, her protection, her healing. And in that moment, Blake Lively was no longer just surviving fame. She was rewriting it. She was teaching the world that true beauty is not silence or perfection. True